Hello, I'm Joe Walensky, and I'm the program manager for Seattle's annual user experience conference called ConveyUX. That's coming up February 27, 28, and March 1. And I get the chance to talk with all of our great speakers. And today I am meeting with Jon Gunderson. Hello, John. How are you doing today?
Good to talk to you again, Joe.
And I'm speaking from BlinkUX's Seattle office. Where are you at today?
I'm on the campus of the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana in central Illinois, and I'm speaking from the the Rehabilitation Education Center. So and I work for Disability Services here at Illinois, and I'm kind of the person who helps the campus understand more about how to make information technologies more accessible. I also work with student accommodations, so trying to find solutions to some of the information and technology access issues we have with students.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you ended up at U of I, what kind of background that you have, and kind of what a day in the life or some of your main priorities are in your work.
Well, I got involved with technology and disability in 1979, so a long time ago, as an undergraduate engineering student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, basically helping to build a communication device for somebody who couldn't speak. And our student project was trying to adapt a voice synthesizer with a communication device so somebody would have a voice. And so that kind of got me started in accessibility. And there was Greg Vanderheiden was a professor at the university, and so after that project, he had some other projects for me to work on. And Greg Vanderheiden was the director of the Trace Center. He still is, which has been a leader in technology and disability for a long time. So I just started working on more projects, and eventually got to the University of Illinois here. I came here in 1992 as a visiting instructor in a rehabilitation technology training program that they had started here. And then the director asked me to come on board around 1996 or 97 to lead their information technology access efforts. People who can remember back that far probably remember the Mosaic browser. It was kind of the first popular graphical browser. Well, that was developed here at Illinois and was making a lot of noise and headlines, and our directors knew that this technology was going to be important, and important for people with disabilities. And given the history of the University of Illinois in providing access to higher education to students with disabilities, he wanted to make sure Illinois was also going to be a leader in the information age accessibility. And so a lot of my day-to-day work now focuses on helping to develop accessibility standards and help people understand how to use web standards to create accessible content, working with both people on our campus and vendors. I also teach online courses. We call them our badging courses in accessibility. So we're trying to help educate people on how to use and create accessible technology. And we also develop tools. We have some open source tools related to evaluating web accessibility, and how our tools may be somewhat different than commercial tools or other open source tools, is we really want to focus on functional accessibility. What's going to make a difference to the user experience for accessibility? And I guess that's what's really excited me about talking to Joe about this conference. It was an opportunity to talk to UX designers about accessibility, and from my experience working with development and designer teams, kind of what I think designers need to know, because in these days, I think designers are going to have can have a huge impact on the accessibility and usability of projects. And I think we need to get you guys on board.
Well, it's going to be great to have you involved in the conference, and accessibility has always been an important part of the event that we put on these past 5 years, and so we have a number of accessibility related topics on the roster. I'm sure you're doing a lot of interesting things there that's always changing at U of I. Is there anything new in the way of technologies or processes or policy that currently has your interest?
Right, there's probably two things that working on right now that I think are really interesting and probably be important to the people. One is called our A11Y First project, and this is a project related to modifying the CK editor interface to help support accessible authoring. So how do we help people? So like on our campus, we have a lot of graduate students and even faculty and staff who don't really know very much about accessibility, but they'll log into a WordPress CMS or Drupal CMS, and they'll use a WYSIWYG editor to create content. And they're actually creating most of the content for these systems. So how do we modify the user interface to help them understand that part of their goal is to create accessible content and then provide them with user interface features that help support that accessibility. It's been a learning process, and I think from a user experience standpoint, one of the most difficult aspects of the project is how do you change the user's conceptual understanding of what they're doing to include accessibility as a part of that process. And so we're still working on that project, and we have few things that are available for people to check out, but we have a lot more work to do to help make that help change that conceptual, or at least support helping people understand this new model. The other project is the ARIA Authoring Practices Guide. This week, the ARIA Authoring Practices Guide is basically how do you use some of these new web standards. It's not so new. ARIA has been around for about 6 years now, but the ARIA Authoring Practices is basically a design style guide on how to use ARIA markup and keyboard support to implement accessible interfaces, and a new version of that should be available early January. This week it's going through the W3C publication process, and so we're hoping to have that published in early January. And we've worked here a lot on developing actual interactive examples so people can actually look at the features of a fully accessible widget for accessibility that has been tested by a lot of accessibility experts, so people can rely on those patterns and for both the interaction and for the coding to ensure accessibility.
And for anybody that may be listening to this and wants to look up things in more detail, the ARIA that John was referring to, if you look that up, is an acronym, ARIA, all caps, and many of the accessibility related guidelines that information is available on the website for the World Wide Web Consortium. John, you briefly mentioned your topic. The title of that is What Designers Need to Know About Accessibility. You talked a little bit about what your thoughts were about that session, but is there anything else that you would like to provide in terms of a preview of what people could expect to see if they attend that session?
Sure. I think a big part of it is for people to understand a few basic things that designers are going to be defining as a part of their process in developing new products. So one is, I think, understanding landmarks and heading structure on a page, and how the use of landmarks and headings change the experience of users, especially screen reader users. I think one of the things I'm hoping to get through this presentation is this understanding of what is this experience of accessibility? What is this user experiencing, and how do your designs going to affect that experience? Keyboard interaction models. So in addition to being able to use the mouse or other types of unique interaction devices, the old keyboard, how do we support the keyboard, and why is that so important? And developing good keyboard models, conceptual models of how the keyboard is going to interact so that it's predictable. And there's other things like color contrast, things that designers really need to look at and understand for accessibility.
Well, John, I appreciate you taking the time to chat about this with me. I think this gives us, some good ideas about what you're going to be talking about, as well as some thoughts about things going on in accessible design. And we'll see you in the Seattle area in just about a couple of months.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, John. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.